Hi there and welcome to this lesson. In today's lesson we will be looking at how to draw trees in isometric. Now remember that trees are not the same. Even the same kind of tree might vary from its neighbor. So like humans, each tree is different, but there are generic ways of approaching trees. Now in most cases trees are, let's call it, lollipop shaped. And then there are trees that are like, and then there are trees that are cone shaped. So we will be looking at these two kind of trees in isometric, and then variations on that. So first of all, I just want to add a new layer in here. Make it a filter. Where are we? Color. A layer, and I want something like that. Okay, and then lower the transparency so that we can see our isometric grid below. Lock those two layers, create a new layer, and let's call that simple shapes. Aha, I can't spell shapes. Right, so let's use that. We are going to create a new layer when we do the detail, but for now let's use that. I'm going to stick to a sketching pencil. I think that one works nicely. And let's pick a color that's something like a grayish blue. Right, now we are ready. So first of all, let's attempt the lollipop tree. So now if you think of a lollipop, it looks something like this. So we've got a ball shape at the top and a stem at the bottom. So how do we translate that into 3D or isometric perspective? So something like that. Let's move this down. And now remember, a sphere will always stay a sphere no matter the perspective. But to make life easier, I'm just gonna draw a cube for my sphere. Let's do that on a new layer. So let's add a new layer and draw. I'm gonna draw the cube in a different space. Booms. And then I'll move that. Okay, let's quickly add the base of the tree, of the cube. And that's the base of the cube. Let's place that in the middle there. Now that we've got that, we can merge these two layers together. And to move that up a little bit like that. And let's create a new layer. Let's call this the drawing. Okay, we're going to still keep it rough. I'm not going to add a lot of detail at this stage. I just want to show you the steps involved in creating a tree. Let's lower the opacity of this one as well. The simple shapes, then the drawing. Having a reference is very important. So let's start drawing. Okay, so just going to rough it in very quickly. Remember, we've got a round base in here. keep it rough. Don't worry about making mistakes and making it ugly. We can clean it up and make it pretty later on. So I think I just want to shorten the tree trunk a little bit. And remember, we said that we've got the canopy or the top of the tree. We can use a sphere, a ball shape. But we need to break it up. Now, if you look at trees, you'll see that each branch that goes out creates another sphere or ball. So this branch will have a ball. This branch will have a ball. That one. And then on the internals, on the interior of the tree, there will be more branches that create more of these bunches of balls or trees, bunches of leaves. So, right. Let's put up. So we started with the cube shapes, and then we expanded on that with our drawing. Let's narrow it. Right. So let's put off the simple. Let's disable the simple layer, simple shapes, and use our drawing. I'm going to lower that its opacity as well. Insert a new layer, and let's call this detailed drawing. I'm going to switch to an ink brush. I like that one. Right, now we can start adding detail. Change that to a darkish gray like that. I'm not going to draw each and every leaf. Just going to give the illusion or suggestion of leaves. Remember to make the tree trunks thicker at the base. Right, so let's create a new layer at the base of that, at the bottom of that. Then using our lasso tool, make a selection of the leaves. Let's pick a green color like that. And fill it with the bucket tool, with our bucket tool F. And let's pick a brown color for the trunk. Let's create a new layer and let's call this shades and I'm going to cut a pick with the same green. Then press X on the keyboard. Now to lighten, move it down. Then press X on the keyboard, and to darken, just move it up a little bit. Right. So, and then let's shade it. So let's imagine that the light is coming in from the right. So our shadow will be on this side. Now remember, we drew ball shapes, and if you know the shading and if you know how to do the shading on balls, you will know that our shading will be to the left bottom of that ball. So follow each of those, let's call it balls, to shade in, to give to put in the shading. Okay, and then our highlights will be at the top right of those balls. It's a very simplistic way of drawing these trees, and you can add more and more detail as you progress. But for now, let's just keep it simple so that the basics, so that you get a basic understanding of how the principles apply to trees. Okay, you can make it even slightly darker at the very bottom and maybe in those deep crevices. But don't go too fancy, just have fun. Okay, and because this is on a different layer, we can click the layer at the bottom and invert the selection. So go to selection, invert selection. Oh no, that's not going to work. So let's use this as a mask maybe. There we go. So instead of inverting the selection, just go down to transparency mask and add a mask. So without the mask and with the mask. While you've got the mask selected, press D on the keyboard. Make sure that black is selected, and then you can paint away where you've overshot. Press X on the keyboard if you accidentally go into the green. So white reveals and black hides. Right, let's do the same for the tree trunk. And there we've got one tree. All right, so now we do the same again. Control click the color base. Then make sure your paint layer or tree trunk shades are selected. And then go down and select transparency mask. And you might need to do the same again. Press D on the keyboard to make sure black is selected. And paint away where you've overshot. And you're done. So you can either merge this, or what I like to do is I like to group it together. Control group, and let's call that lollipop tree. So the next tree we are going to draw is the pine tree or cone-shaped tree. So let's create a new layer and let's call it basic shapes. Again, we want to draw we want to start with our base. Let's lower that. Let's start with a small cube or box shape for the tree trunk. You can take this all the way up, but I think this should be fine. Then let's draw a cross in here, a big cross like that. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that's fine. And let's do the same to this side. 1, 2, almost 3, 1, 2, almost 3. No, 1, 2, almost 3. So let's extend the center line up. Right, and let's bring that down towards, okay, let's draw an ellipse. It needn't be perfect, something like that. Okay, and then let's bring that down from there and down from there. Come on. Right. I want to extend this a little further. More or less like that. Right, so that's the starting point of drawing a pine tree. We need to draw a few more ellipses for the layers of the branches and leaves. Right, so it's almost like this cone, this small cone, this cone goes underneath the small cone. So the tip fits underneath the smaller cone. And the same happens with every layer that goes down. It fits underneath the cone that's just above it. So now that we have that, let's create a new layer and let's call this a rough drawing. Let's lower the opacity of the basic shapes, go to rough drawing, and now we want to create randomness in the leaves. So something like that. It's almost like branches sticking out further than others. Right, and then our tree trunk again, slightly thinner. It should go slightly thinner to the top until it's a fine point or disappears into a fine point, and at the base it goes slightly thicker. Be careful not to make it like this, so taper it very gradually. Okay, and then at the very base you can make it slightly wider as it goes into the ground. Okay, try to follow the base of that rough drawing you've got at the bottom, or the basic shapes drawing you've got at the bottom. Right. Now we want to break this up a little bit more. And now that we have that, let's lower the opacity of that one and create a new layer and call it detailed drawing. Okay. Now we can start adding finer details. Just want to make sure my brush is the same size as the previous one. There's no right and wrong way. Mine is very stylized. You can stylize yours in a different way. So don't try to follow one specific style when you draw trees like this. In the beginning, it's all about learning the basics and understanding how to start off creating drawings like this, and don't let fear or perfection stop you from creating. I think our biggest enemy is making things perfect. Just have fun. Go through the exercises, and if you don't want to show it to anybody, you don't have to. There's nothing that will teach you more than just doing it. Watching videos and not doing it will you will never get to a point where you start learning unless you put your brush onto the canvas, pencil on paper, and your graphics tablet pen on your graphics tablet. So just do it, man. Just do it. Right. So I'm going to try a different approach. I'm going to make sure that my line drawing is closed, so there's no openings. And I'm going to try and use the magic wand and make a selection on the outside, invert that, and fill the whole tree with one single color. Let's see if I can do that. So make sure there's no gaps anywhere on the outside of your drawing. Right, let's disable that. Select your magic wand tool. Where is it? Mask. There we go. Magic wand. Right. Let's invert that. There we go. And now we can create a solid fill layer. Add fill layer. Let's make that a green color. Okay, okay. And let's call that leaves. And then using the lasso tool, I want to remove the leaves part of the tree. There we go. So, and then create another fill layer. And this time we are going to make it a brownish color. Like so. Okay. Okay. Right. So that's trunk. Trunk. So there's the trunk fill layer and the leaves layer. And we are going to do the same. Insert a new layer and let's call that shades. Let's select the leaves, and then Control Alt click to deselect the trunk. Now we're just going to paint the leaves. Brush, then color pick the green, press X on the keyboard, color pick the green, make it slightly lighter, maybe brighter as well. Press X, make it slightly darker and duller. And let's start painting. Control click the trunk layer make sure that shade layer is still selected, then color pick your trunk, make it slightly darker, press X, color pick and make it slightly lighter. And that's how you create a pine tree. So let's put all of that together. So the basics are simple. So we start off with a cube for the tree trunk in both cases. For the lollipop tree, we create a cube which we turn into a sphere, or think of as a sphere. You can make this much larger or much smaller, depending on the tree that you are referencing or drawing. Once we've done the basic shapes, we do the rough drawing, where we basically just block in each of the elements, and then we do a detailed drawing. And after that, we create new layers where we start painting in the colors, remembering that the light is coming from a certain direction, in our case from the right, so the highlight would be on the right side, the midtones would be in the middle, and then the shades will be to the left and bottom. For the leaves, the tree trunk, the shades will be on the left side. Certain branches like that will be darker, other branches slightly lighter, and then our bright highlights at the base, because this is turning towards the light. So if you understand that, having an understanding of that will help you a lot. And then for the pine tree, it's basically just a cone that we draw for the top, which we break into smaller cones. The tree trunk is similar to that, just a cylinder that we draw, or a cube, extended cube, which we use as a base to do our drawing. And the shading is very similar to what we've done on the lollipop tree. So if you understand how to draw these two trees, these two shapes, you can create a variety of trees. Your tree trunks doesn't need to be straight. You can have tree trunks that almost go in a zigzag. You have trees that grow up and then the wind blows it to the side and then it grows up again. So having a reference will help you a lot. So if you search on the internet for references of old trees, fallen trees, broken trees, dead trees, any kind of tree, and try to draw that tree, but in a very simplistic style, will teach you a whole lot about trees and how to approach each one of them. But always start with the basic blocking, where you use blocks, cylinders, and spheres to create the shapes that you need to, so that you can easily draw the tree without thinking of it being a tree. So basic shapes, detail, more detail, a lot of detail, too much detail, you get the picture. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.